You know what bums me out right now? Is you have no idea how difficult this is. Beautiful rainbow. I know what you're saying too. You're gonna say, Todd, that was almost impossible. How are you gonna catch another one? And my statement is, you just watch, my friend. I have a sense that today most people maintain an arm's length relationship with the outdoors. My good friend Bill McConnell is the complete opposite. Bill began honing his extensive outdoor skills over 20 years ago. He trained and later instructed with one of the most famous trackers and primitive skills outdoorsmen in our country's history, Tom Brown Jr. We're both from the same area of the country. I'm from Michigan, you're from Ohio, which makes me a little bit better than you. But,
we'll get back to it. We'll put a pin in that. 5 million years ago, this was it. This allowed us, this changed everything. We're not even walking upright at that time. We don't control fire. So back 1.5 million years ago, we start the ability to take a rock, strike it with another rock or a piece of antler and drive what goes from something dull and unusable to something razor sharp with one strike. Use it for, they feel in the initial stages, was for getting into that large femur bones and things like that, because we're scavengers, we're not top of the food chain. All the meat and stuff like that's gone from the hierarchy, but we could come in and saw through bones and crack those big femur bones open and get that protein-rich marrow out of the middle. So for a long time, all we really needed was this allows us to actually leave the equator. We start walking upright, we start carving fire kits and things like that allow us to control fire, create clothes, all the stuff that allows us to live in the less hospitable areas of the globe. And then, you know, after a while we start turning this, it's like, oh, well, if I strike it the right way, I can lash it onto the end of a stick. Then all of a sudden, somewhere back 100,000 years ago, the tinder bundle goes off like, hey, if I know what's going to happen before I strike it, then why am I only thinking one strike at a time? And this is where we start to see advanced tools that are choppers and things, and eventually the forward pass is invented where we want to be further away from our game at a safer distance. We don't have to be as good at stalking to where we're throwing spears at greater distances, the invention of atlatl, eventually the beauty of the bow and arrow. One of the first things that you learn to do is just kind of recognize what types of materials will allow you to even give you a sharp edge. We can start to take some usable pieces off that will allow us to make arrowheads out of it. So, and you'll notice as I'm taking strikes in different places, I'm listening to the sound. You can tell the difference when I'm getting good sharp reduction flakes. And what this is going to do is let me know that that tone and that sound, the higher pitch the ring, the more glass-like the sound, the sharper that material is going to be. But at a certain point, eventually what we have to start doing as we get down, if we keep continuing to hit on a piece that where the width to thickness ratio is like that, we're just going to fold it in half. So now what has to happen, instead of striking pieces off of it, we'll actually hold it in our hand. And this is where finite sharpening and shaping really takes place, is in the pressure flaking aspects of it. So instead of striking pieces off of it, we'll actually come in, and you can come in there and just feel the difference between how this edge was dulled versus the razor sharp serration that just from 2 or 3 flakes taken off the edge of that piece right there.
I don't have a knife in my possession right now that's as sharp as this edge.
I use my knife and protect to keep it sharp for when it's going to be the better tool, but most of the time you can reach over, grab a rock, gutting fish, whatever it is that you might need to do, where you don't need to worry about dulling your knife or taking the life wear off your knife. You can just go ahead and use a rock.
I would think, and this may be completely inaccurate, but with compound bows, you have different grains of arrows, and whatnot that you use, almost like with a rifle where you're using a different grain bullet depending on the animal that you're hunting. So do you increase the size, the weight of the arrowhead for a larger animal?
There's usually legal parameters and based on the size and width of the broadhead that you have to use. And unfortunately, there's still only about 50% of the states in the U.S. that will even allow you to hunt with stone points. So you have to check your state regulations whether it's even legal to hunt this way. Yep, unfortunately.
Do you have any idea why that is?
I'm not sure what it is. I don't know, and we're working on it in a few states where it isn't legal at this point and should be.
So I want to see if I can understand this correctly. There's some states that allow you to hunt with drones, and there's some states that do not allow you to hunt with a stone arrowhead that you've made yourself.
Absolutely.
Not sure how that all plays into the fair game piece, but...
I have no idea either. We killed woolly rhinos with it, but we can't shoot white-tailed deer with it now.
I was never taken fly fishing or hunting by my dad or any of my family members. And, you know, it really started, I think, more with going to a park that was near a river and then getting infatuated with just the movement and the sound and the life that was a part of that river. Then seeing a guy fly fishing when I was visiting up in northern Michigan and being completely taken with the romance and the beauty of it, and almost feeling like you're respecting the river more by fly fishing and this ancient method of fishing as opposed to just chucking putting a worm on a hook and chucking it out there. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think it was the romance of it. It was the only thing to me that fit the beauty that you experience in the outdoors. And then after that, I spent almost 2 months by myself in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan trying to get as close to nature and the experience as I possibly could by living, off the land. People that have the escape of the outdoors of this, it's a way of being able to hit the reset button. And it's something that also is kind of a tribe, if you will, something that we all have in common that we get excited about. I'll never forget the first time that I walked up to an animal that I'd shot, and I hate trying to describe it to people, but it's this emotion that you feel that is equal parts gratitude, equal parts sadness,
remorse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yet the way that I can honor it is by using literally every piece of that, and that I think is what's so spectacular about what you do.
Non-hunters have a large input on what we do, and that 90%, their opinion on hunting is based on the hunters and fishermen that they know. If they know people that are out there doing restoration projects, picking up garbage, restoring streams, leaving the place better than they found it, honoring their kills, eating what they harvest, sharing what they harvest, taking kids into the woods, they have really positive opinions of hunters and fishermen. If they know poachers, if they know outlaws, if they know slouches, if they know people that use camping and fishing and hunting as an excuse to go out into the woods and take their issues with them and drink and do a lot of other things that is perceived as negative, then they have negative opinions on those hunters and fishermen. So literally we have to be wise stewards. We have to police our own ranks. We have to set good examples. And if we can be better hunters and fishermen, and we can lead by example, that will allow future generations to understand the validity in hunting, and then they'll find out for themselves, just because you can't teach that morality, you can't teach that spirituality, you can open the door and they have to drink that for themselves. And so yeah, they might think that they're out there because it's healthier for them to eat that way, and they're right, but what they're going to find is that they're going to find deeper parts of themselves, those unspoken parts of themselves that truly are nature. We're not removed from nature. That connection that we have to nature, that connection that we have, the satisfaction that we have to feeding ourselves, and also the morality and understanding that we've taken a life every day to do that, changes how we eat, changes how we look at the world, changes how we look at our community and our neighbors, and we recognize that our neighbors are the plant communities and the animal communities that we share the earth with, not just the people that we share the earth with.
Absolutely. I am driven every day by my need to get into our wildlands. It is so much more than a simple escape from the stress and negativity we face in our everyday lives. I am inspired now more than ever to hone and learn the skills necessary to become truly self-sufficient. To not only survive, but thrive in the outdoors on the most organic and healthy living possible in today's society. I can't wait to get back out into our public lands and continue the journey. I'll see you on the trail.